Okay, welcome everyone to the webinar. I'll get started. Just by way of introduction, we'll put up our slides there. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, so what we want to cover today is three key things. Some new reports that we've generated, and we've changed the layout of the reports menu. We then want to go through custom asset types and methodologies just to show how to manage a wide range of assets. And then we'll go through and look at how you can go out in the field and collect information on whatever sort of asset that you might have set up. So by way of introduction, Adam, if you can go through to the next slide, please. Yep. Myself is Andrew Sonnenberg, so I'm the product manager for the software, and today Adam, one of our software engineers, will be assisting in the presentation along with Hamish Murphy. Like usual, if you've got any further questions, my number's up on the screen there, and we'll be recording today's session so that you can play it back if you've missed anything or we've gone too quickly. As I just said before, we'll try and keep microphones on mute. If you have got a question though, you'll find at the bottom center of the screen you can click on chat and ask a question, and Hamish will track those questions and we'll aim to answer those for you later on. So to kick things off, with the new reports we've generated, we've created a drop-down field, and in that drop-down field you'll see there's reports for assets, inspections, defects, financial related and risk related information, as well as our user-defined reporting, which allows you to query any particular field in the database and export that out to Excel and sort that in any way you like, and you can save that query if you find that one of our other reports hasn't met your needs. The other thing we'll touch on is the predictive modeling reports. At this stage, they're still sitting in a slightly separate area in the menus, just aligned with where you do the predictive modeling analysis. So we'll work our way down through the menu items there, and the first one we'll look at is the assets report. And what we've done is created a report to answer a whole range of questions, but I just put typical questions up here. And I'd encourage any one of our users or potential users send us through other types of queries they may have or reporting requirements regarding assets so that we can look at addressing those. As I say, the next issue of our software will be in about a week's time, and it'll incorporate all these features that we talk about today. So for an assets report, the typical things we're going to do is look at what the value of the asset is, where it's located, what custom information you may have collected on it, exporting out links to photos, reports or drawings and the like, and what the age of the asset is. The one after that we've created is inspection report, and what I thought we'd do is with the inspection report, I might just get Adam to take us through now with the software to show how that works, and we'll just see how we can answer a range of questions from that. And so by showing the process, it's quite a similar process used for each of these reports in terms of how you get the data.
Right, so we're looking at the main screen of AssetAsyst here, and we can see here the reports menu that we just talked about. So under the inspections option, we have the inspections report. Now we can choose an asset type. As you can see, we've got quite a list of different types of assets that we're managing in this database. So I'll just do a search for some structure assets. Now we have a number of different options for the reports here. We have the Excel report, which I'm about to show you. We also have a Word document report and a TMR report, which we can discuss in a minute. So it's a matter of choosing the inspections that you want on this report. I could then go and enter some different filtering options and continue to add additional inspections if I wanted to. But once we've chosen what we want, click Export to Excel. We can choose to include photos and documents and choose the source where they're coming from. And then we just choose a folder where we're going to generate that, and it generates the report.
Yeah, so I guess, Adam, the intent, the sorts of questions that we find we come across when we're helping manage asset owners' assets for them, as well as through discussions, is things like, obviously, when's the inspection been undertaken, and so we report on that in here. We say who actually did the inspection. You can see there's an inspector column there. What condition was the asset found in? And for that case, we also have a number of worksheets, because assets overall might have a condition rating, but we also have condition rating of their components, and so that's all exported into this report. In this case, Adam's showing an assets where we've rated on a scale of 1 to 4, but I guess some users would be aware that we also have the 1 to 5 rating system supported in AssetAsyst, as well as if you want to do an inspection without any condition rating and purely do defect inspections, that's also supported. We've got a listing there of the number of defects that are found, and in these sorts of reports we could include location information of defects, as well as the attachments. So I think if you just want to show how the attachments are linked, if there's attachments on this particular example.
So what we've produced here is an Excel document, but it has hyperlinks here to the photos that we've included. And so we can click on any of these and see the photo. Now, these files are exported with the report. You can see here, this is the Excel file that generated. It's also generated this folder, and that contains the photos.
Yeah, and then Adam, I think you explained just before how for certain assets there's certain particular reports, and so in this case you'd run one for bridges, and when you go and filter out the data, because it's a particular module of the software, it's giving the end user some more reporting ability, which is very tailored and very specific to particular requirements. In this case, you mentioned transport and main roads, or TMR reporting, and they have a very specific report that's required. And so the intent of the software is to give the same look and feel for any particular asset you may come across, but where we have specific modules for users, there will be very tailored reports so that we fully comply with state regulations and requirements for inspections. So here, Adam's just showing one of those very tailored reports. But as an end user, we hope the experience is one that's quite uniform, even if you're managing your pumps or your trees or maybe some plant and equipment. You will get a very similar experience, and it'll only be tailored and more complex when you're dealing with one of those more complex assets. Is the intent. What we might do, Adam, there was the next, if you go back to those menu items under reports and inspections, we also have a inspections program report. And I just want to show where you find that from. So on that one, we end up with the same look and feel of all the other reports in the menu. The fact that you can search for what you want. It then gets more context sensitive, depending on how you narrow the data down. And then finally, you can do an export. If you could just show, Adam, an export we've done there to show you typically what would come out on an inspection program report, please. So yeah, in this reporting here, it's putting out the things like it should be when the next inspection is due. So there's a due date there. We'll see in column G. It says whether the inspections have been completed in column H. There's a status field. In this one, it looks like we haven't populated yet, but when the release comes out, you'll see whether something's overdue, and we're also going to have the number of days. So if you get the release in about a week's time, you'll see the days overdue or whether it's just completed or on time, etc. Yeah, and then as I said, there can be, what you'll see there is there's various inspection levels for the same asset. And so something that we'll talk about later is that you can have your own custom style of inspections, and that way you might have multiple types of inspections going on for the one asset. And you can see when each of those are due, what frequency they're on, when they're next due, and whether you've been compliant with your intent in terms of timing. Okay, so if we just flick back to the main screen to have a look at reports and the defects report and where you'd find that. So what we're saying is we've done a whole lot of inspections. Even though the inspection report had some information on defects, we've created another specific defects only style report. And again, you'll see the user interface there is very similar to all the other reports to try and make it easy for people to use and get the reports they want. So Adam's loading up a defects report here, and what we're looking to do is answer questions such as, what defects do I have? And so here's a list of them for the particular assets he's searched on. What is the status of the defects? What work order are they on? When are the defects due? Where is the defect? What's the expected cost to fix it? Etc. And also photos again, and the whole idea of getting those photos out of the system and allowing users to have those and then insert them into other documents they may want and ready access. So, as well as, I guess the last comment I have there with defects, you can have your own custom fields on a defect and export those out as well. And so what Adam's showing there is there can be multiple defects for the defect photos for the one defect as well. So there's no real limit to that, and that'll get exported out and linked. So I think in that photo, we're showing some photos around an office building and then showing some cabling ductwork, which has fallen away from the wall and needs fixing. One thing that we haven't just put out yet, but you'll see when we release it, under reports menu, we'll end up with a works report as well. And in the works report, Adam, if you just flick to that slide, you'll get answers to questions about, well, what are the work orders that I have in AssetAsyst? We just need to go down a couple of slides, Adam. Down a couple more. Yeah, what's the status of those work orders? What's the estimated cost on them? What works are overdue? What works are scheduled, etc. And again, you can have your own custom information on a work order. So that'll come out to a report similar in the way we've found before. What we might do now is just touch on the predictive modeling reports. And I noticed I just skipped over the financial reports and risk reports. So for financial reports, we cover depreciation, your written down value and revaluations. For risk reports, we've got a risk rating for components, which is aggregated up to asset level, and so you can report on that as well. So getting to the predictive modelling reports. With the predictive modelling, we're looking to answer questions such as what is the condition-based valuation of an asset as opposed to its depreciated value? What is the condition-based value if we do certain works and looking at that over the next 100 years? What level of service are we going to be providing depending on what maintenance works we do? And when will units of our assets need works undertaken on them? So what I would like to show next is coming up just start at the December, I've been accepted to present at the Roads and Maritime Services conference, bridge conference in New South Wales, and I've just grabbed a couple of slides that I'll be presenting at that conference about how we can do network-wide predictive modelling. In this case, it's been set up for bridges, but we support predictive modelling for all of our custom assets as well. So in this case, some of the output you get from that modelling is a list of the components on an asset, how long it will be until we think some treatment may be required, and that's the years to intervention column. Adam, if you can just point that out. That's that column there. Yep. And so what you're finding there is there's a component there, bridge approaches, which has 0 years to intervention. And the reason why is we've picked up a defect and it's put that component in a certain state that's deemed to now need works on it. We have a functional limit column next to it, and that's saying that any time between the years of it to intervention to that functional limit is a time when you'd look to do maintenance works. If you're past that point and you're not scheduling something, you might be leaving it too late to actually repair that component, and also the cost will be significant and you will not be meeting the level of service that you have set for that asset. Over the far right-hand side, you'll see there's a condition-based valuation column. And what that's doing at the component level, we're applying deterioration curves to each and every component and understanding their age to come out with how much value is left from a condition point of view for those components. So there's a fair bit in that, but probably the best way to demonstrate it is to have a look at a few of the graphs that you get from the reporting, from the predictive modelling. So we just move along to the next slide, Adam, and I'll just explain one further thing. What we've done with the next slide, we've scheduled for this asset some works to those approaches, and we've scheduled some maintenance on a maintenance order to do some painting of some components. And what we can see through the next slide is a report that's come out of AssetAsyst, and it shows the maintenance works that we've just scheduled, and it shows in the solid red line the condition-based valuation of that asset resulting from those works. And with all these numbers that we're now getting out, we can look at the cost benefit of doing those works. And because we have a risk scoring procedure, we haven't yet, but we will be tying that in with the risk and looking at how the dollar spent might reduce the risk versus also the net benefit in life extension of the asset. And in this way, because we're modelling all sorts of assets, we can start to prioritise our dollars across a whole network, independent of the fact that they're different types of assets. We can bring it back to a common denominator. So this graph here comes out of one of the reports as standard, and it's a 10-year looking forward graph, which helps people with their 10-year asset management plans. If we go to the next slide, another set of data we produce is a 100-year looking forecast. And so for this asset, which was a small footbridge, we're saying that eventually there would be no value left in it whatsoever. Obviously, we would breach a whole lot of intervention levels, and the level of service would be very low if we continued past a certain point. What we've done is we've implemented an algorithm into the software to look for an ideal time to replace assets. And if we go to the next graph, what we find is the software can detect a time when it may be ideal to replace the asset, and it'll forecast that expenditure in there when you plan to replace it. And after that, its estimates are based more like you'd expect from a straight line depreciation model, because at that stage we know we're replacing it, but we're not sure of the exact components of those. All we do is run on an estimate of the average age we're expecting and the amount we're expecting to spend. So with all that said, I think we'll have a look at custom asset types now. I might get you, Adam, just to run through how the custom asset types work in a minute. In a database that we're using today, just to demonstrate, we've put in all sorts of different assets into it. And so on the left-hand side of the screen there, you're seeing the list of assets and the different names of things that we've been able to store. And alongside that comes all that other data that we spoke about that we export out on, which is the value of the asset, where it's located, its drawings, its photos, what inspections are scheduled on it, etc. So Adam, if you could just take us through the process of how that works, that would be good.
Certainly. In terms of methodologies, you can see here, this is the methodology screen in AssetAsyst, and we've got a collection of them here. We have at least one methodology for each asset type. There's a couple here you'll notice with the structures. We've got a Vic Road, an RMS and a Queensland, which are 3 different methodologies for the one asset type. We're looking at an example here for water tunnel. We can specify the condition range. We can also specify whether we use an exposure class. Now the exposure class allows the inspector that basically to define the environment that the component is in, and if that environment is aggressive, that may have an impact on the life of the component. So that's a feature you can essentially turn on or off for a given methodology if you want to.
And there we're seeing the condition range of 1 to 4, and now you're showing an example where you've toggled to a 1 to 5 rating system.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so that's basically another option that you have there. And we've ticked on the exposure class on this example as well. Now, in terms of what you can actually specify for these methodologies, there are a number of different things that you can set up. The first being the components. So here we have a methodology for stormwater, and we've defined 3 components here: pit, lid, and pipe. And we can define some factors on these in terms of damage to life, loss of service, and economic factor. We can also specify materials, basically what the component is made out of, and then we relate those components to the materials, as you can see here in this relationships tab. So here we've got a couple of these set up, and you can see that AssetAsyst has generated a default code 1C, 2P, 3C, 3P. Now this is based off the component number and the material code. But you don't have to use these codes. You can actually alias them and specify any kind of code or identify that you want these components. And in this case, we've come up with a completely different system.
And that's handy for when it goes out to the inspection tablet. Inspectors can see the alias name and on inspection forms and throughout the software rather than the actual code if they prefer.
We can also, so here there's a couple of columns where we can specify component life, cost weights, intervention level percentages. These are all configuration options for the predictive modeling that Andrew was talking about recently. So it just shows how you can tailor that predictive modeling feature to your specific asset type and the way that it works with your methodology. Another thing you can specify is the types of defects. So here we've got a methodology for trees, and we've specified some defects such as borers, damaged limb, fungus, loss of foliage. And you can specify a unit of measure, problem description, which can actually pre-fill into your defect, which makes defect entry a lot easier, particularly in the field where you don't want to do a lot of typing. And we've related this defect type borers to 3 component types: limbs, roots, and flowers.
Yeah, and I guess the point in that too, again, Adam, was as an inspector, you only want to see the defect types that relate to what you're inspecting. So be that a pump or a pipe or a bridge or any other type of asset, such as a building. You don't want to see a whole lot of superfluous defects in a big long list. It's too hard to choose the appropriate one.
Yes, the approach we've taken there with AssetAsyst is this relationship here will define the default list that you'll initially see. If for any reason you do want to see that longer list, there's always a button that will reveal that to you. But in the immediate term, you're presented with the options that are most relevant and most useful. Once we've defined the defects, we can then define how we'll repair them. So here we've got a list of repair items from the RMS methodology. And this screen obviously looks very similar. You can specify a solution text, and this will then pre-fill into the repair recommendation on the defect. And these repair items can be related to defect types. So in exactly the same way, you will only initially see the list of repairs that are relevant to a particular defect, or you can then click to show all of them. On these repair items, we can specify costs. This allows us to get some, again, some default information where the system will help us fill in the defect. And we can specify this at a component level and also a maintenance category level. The maintenance category just being a useful way of categorizing assets based on their importance or relative cost or that kind of definition. Then we can specify response times. Again, this is broken up by this maintenance category. So we can say for a safety defect, it has a certain urgency. For a maintenance, it has a different urgency, and for a capital, another. And then we can specify the person hours that we believe will be required to correct a certain type of defect. So the more of these configuration settings that you fill in, the more the system will help you fill in the defects with minimal data entry on your behalf when you're out in the field.
And I guess, Adam, the idea was also for consistency and not overloading the inspector so that you can get quality data. If you expect too much of the inspector, sometimes we see people spending all their time looking at a sheet rather than spending their time focusing on actually finding the issues and categorising things and using their true skills at doing that. In this way, a lot of the logic of what the actual asset owner wants as a response time frame and the importance of it and estimating costs, etc., can be factored into the system so that once the inspector finishes their job, which is kept to a minimum, you can start to develop the reporting to understand the size of the issues you have and how urgent they are. And you know this is being done consistently, irrespective of the inspector. And you also know that it will be compliant with the standards that you set out in your asset management plans for your assets. So there's some of the big advantages of having it. It takes a bit of time to set some of this up. For certain asset classes, we would normally set that up for people before they take on the system, so that they don't have to expend that effort, and they can use our knowledge of how best to manage assets to their advantage. So I think the next thing we wanted to do was show how once you've set up asset up in AssetAsyst, be it whatever type of asset that you're trying to manage as an asset owner, how you can then go out and inspect that in the field. And I guess there's been the one way was going mobile with any Windows-based device, and we've supported that for many, many years. Then over the years, going back 15 years ago or so, we even had PDAs for bridge inspection, but in more recent time, over the last sort of 3 to 5 years, we've been using tablets to do our bridge inspections for clients. What we've done is extended the tablet functionality to any custom asset that an asset owner using AssetAsyst wants to set up. So we just thought to highlight that. We would just show how that can work. And so I think, Hamish, you've got a tablet there that you can show us?
Yep, we've got a Samsung Galaxy tab.
Yeah, so what Hamish is doing there is just plugging in the tablet so that we can all see it on the screen a bit clearer by feeding the display from the screen back into our live feed. So thanks, Hamish.
Yep. So when you fire up the device or the AssetAsyst app, you get a list of assets. So before you go out to the field, you'll prepare which assets you're going to inspect. And as you're going around, you choose the asset that you're currently looking at.
Yeah, so in that case, we had a list there where we've just got one asset to inspect, but if we had 50 assets, they would be in that list, and we could select any particular one of them. And then by selecting that, it brings you through to this screen here.
Yep, and so you can enter information about the asset, when you're in the field. So like Adam said, ideally if you set up your methodology types, then a lot of this data can be pre-filled. But you also have, in AssetAsyst, you also have custom fields. So you can have custom fields at the asset level. You can have custom fields at the inspection level. So
and I guess, Hamish, a good point there was the fact that you can actually audit asset data in the field. You can not only conduct the inspection, but you can have the information related to the asset there. And if you want to, you can update that information while in the field to improve the quality of data.
Yes, I guess I was alluding to the fact that the information will be there presented to you, and then, like you say, if there's something wrong, you can use this to correct the data out in the field. So when you're looking at the asset information, you have your custom fields. So, for instance, here we've got the type of pump. So this is an inspection for a pump, and then at the inspection level, have other custom fields. So these are fields that are defined by additional fields that you've defined for your organisation, and it's very flexible. You can choose different types of fields. So you can see here you've got a text box where you can enter in details, or you can have yes, no fields, or if you want to, you can have a list to choose from. Other features of the app are one of the things that you will probably do when you're doing an inspection is you can use the GPS feature of the device. So I can go update GPS and it will automatically populate that data for me, which is very handy. Also,
yeah, and I guess that's a thing, Hamish, because often when we're doing our work out in the field, we've got someone else's data they've provided to us and we're going out to do the inspection, but we get that base information. That's not always correct, and so it's handy to be able to update that and audit it and provide back to a client better quality data than we started off with.
Yes.
And so from time to time, yeah, we get erroneous coordinates, or there isn't coordinates, and it's just so much better to go and pick up coordinates and provide those back. So we're talking about the one spot on this planet. So.
Yeah, and the best part about the GPS is that that's a feature of the device that gives you very accurate information, and you only have to press a button to get that back to when it's imported back into the system. And also you have the photos. So while you're at the field, you can take a photo, add it to the asset, or you can browse the existing photos. So if there's been an inspection in the past, you can come back to, you can see what photos have been taken from the last time as a point of reference.
Yeah, and I guess here, Hamish, you can label these photos. So you've got a photo there, you could type into the box, which doesn't come through that clearly when we're projecting onto a computer. It's much clearer on the actual tablet, but you can type in a name there and say pump or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you can take multiple photos there, and you can also bring in photos from that have been taken previously, because you might be at site and go, is this really the pump? Is this the same location? Let's have a look at what was done last time, and you can take that information in the field with you. And it doesn't require connectivity to a 4G network to be able to do that.
No, everything's saved on the device, and it's brought back into AssetAsyst when you come back to base. The other thing worth mentioning is that it automatically saves as well as you're going around in the field. So if you forget to save, then it's going to do that for you. So the other part of the app is the inspections section. So here you'll see a list of components that belong to each asset. And you can use this information to enter in the condition information that Andrew was talking about before. You can also put comments in, general comments on the inspection. So say, I don't know, maybe there was an accident at a certain point in the road, so it's, some general damage has been done. And then on the particular parts of the asset, you can say what the issue is there.
Yeah, and again, so here you can do a 1 to 4 rating or a 1 to 5 condition rating on a percentage. You can add defects in as well, and then you can take the photos of those defects. And again, the categorization, as Adam was showing earlier, will come down to how you want to characterize your defects and the repair types that you want, and the auto population of the costs, if you want that to occur, occurs through the tablet app. So.
Yes, and if you do find a defect out in the field, then you can add a defect on the fly against that particular component.
Yeah, and we do have the reassessment of defects too. So if you've brought back in the past defects from the previous inspection, you can actually update the information, and that'll go back into the defect history of how that particular defect is changing over time, if it's been closed out or it's got worse, if the quantity's changed. And that's all tracked back into AssetAsyst for reporting on. Very good. Thanks for that, Hamish. So with today's session, we're planning to run for no longer than the 45 minutes, because we're mindful that people's time is valuable. What we can do now is just open up if people have any general questions, they can probably best to type them in the chat box in the centre bottom of the screen, and we're more than happy to answer those. But if there isn't any questions, then or people don't want to ask them at this stage, they feel free to ask me later on. So at this stage, I haven't seen any questions pop up. So give it a little longer. But, Adam, there wasn't anything that I'd missed out on, or Hamish, anything further we want to mention? Other than I guess the next webinar we're looking at running is to demonstrate the another app we've got under development, which is a Works Crew app. And so previously, I think we said we'd have that developed by around the end of this year, which we're making good progress to. So what we thought we'd do is demonstrate that to users probably sometime towards the end of January. Again, just to allow people who are on holidays to come back and then participate if they wish in that session. So anyway, I don't see any further questioning. So I'd just like to thank everyone for their interest in the session. And yeah, just to say that, yeah, we're really excited about where the software's moving, and yeah, we'll continue to hold these sessions to share our enthusiasm with it. And yeah, we're really happy with the level of interest we're getting from a lot of potential new clients, as well as the existing client base that we have. So it's really pleasing for us, and yeah, we're enjoying working on it. So thank you again for your time, and hope to see you on our next webinar session. Thank you.